Hey everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ariel, and this is Ariel Astro Travel. Hi, and welcome back. Today we will be talking about Mexico City, what the Astrocartography said it was going to be like for me, what it actually felt like when I was there, and what I got into during the 3-month stint that I spent in Mexico City. So according to my Astrocartography, I have my Jupiter in Zenith, my MC line through Mexico City. And so it's supposed to be a really benevolent place for me. It's supposed to be a place where I feel visible in teaching and healing, in sharing my thoughts and my ideas. It's supposed to bring me a lot of creative energy, a lot of expansive energy. It's a place where I'm supposed to be visibly seen and expanded, right? And so it's really focusing on the visible expansion in my career. And I really felt that while I was there. Having my Jupiter MC line in Mexico means that my voice and my ideas are amplified. So I want to teach, I want to create YouTubes, I want to speak, I want to create content, I want to publish. These are all things that the energy of Mexico City would bring to me. And that is exactly what happened. There's no accident that this YouTube channel was launched while I was in Mexico City. I really had the confidence and the creative ideas in order to launch new business ideas and new business ventures and feel comfortable being seen, feel comfortable putting my ideas out there. Something that I would not have done in any of the other cities that I was in. But in Mexico City, I felt very comfortable and safe to be creative and to put myself out there and to finally start this YouTube channel after thinking about it for years and years and years. Mexico City was a place where I could really experience career growth and expansion. And I really do feel like I felt that. I didn't focus as much on community and connections while I was in Mexico City. I was really focused on my career growth and trying to think about business ideas, trying to create content and TikToks and YouTubes and Substack articles. And I was just really focused on what I could create. And I felt so expansive. I felt so energized, sometimes too energized. And so it was really important for me while I was there to do a lot of grounding exercises, to spend a lot of time in nature, to do a lot of walks around in parks, to spend a lot of time just finding ways that I could keep that energy grounded, because it was such a creative, expansive, energetic place for me that I often felt like I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to go here and I have to do that. So I felt like I had to do 100 things at once, and I really needed to focus in and channel it in a way that was easeful, that felt safe, that did not feel like chaotic in any way. Because the shadow side of this would be that I would be overwhelmed. There would be too many things coming at me. I would overcommit and I would overextend myself. So I really wanted to make sure that what I was doing wasn't just throwing all of this creative energy everywhere without any intended goal. I wanted to channel it towards something that made the most sense. And right now, this YouTube channel, my Substack, and my social media accounts are really what I spent the most time focusing on, to build a community of people who are experiencing similar things to me, who may have similar journeys to me. There are so many people who have decided to live abroad, who have decided to travel, who have decided to be digital nomads, especially now with the US and the current state of the world, the state of the US. There are a lot of folks who are like, I feel like I need to leave the US and I need to move abroad. And that's not by accident that I also had that pull to leave the country, right? And so I think that there was a part of me that wanted to not only share my therapeutic perspectives, my healing perspectives, my insight around healing, but also share what it's like to move abroad. If there are other folks who are considering this, who need support around this, it was really during that time that I was able to kind of hone in on what I wanted to do. The combination between healing and astrology and spirituality and therapy, along with my real life experiences, right? And so what I got into when I was there, I was in Mexico City for 3 months. It wasn't long enough. I loved being in that energy. It's been so long since I've been in an energy of a place that really felt expansive and fun and creative and light and energetic. I've been feeling weighed down by other cities before, and I think that that city really helped me feel like everything got turned up a notch. Like I felt like myself in so many ways, right? I can feel my creative self. I could feel my energetic self. I could feel so many parts of myself that I felt like quieted in other cities, or at least got overshined in other cities. And so when I got to Mexico City, I got there during Day of the Dead, Día de Muertos, and I got to experience Day of the Dead festival celebrations in the Central Zócalo in Mexico the first day that I was there. It was such a beautiful experience to see how they celebrated their dead, their muertos. It was such a beautiful experience for me. I experienced Dia de Muertos in Oaxaca, but it was more community oriented. We created community altars. We shared stories about our muertos, like that kind of thing. But here it felt more like Pride, Pride in the middle of June, right? Pride in New York City, or New Year's Eve, that kind of energy where it felt like a huge celebration. In the Zocalo, there were vendors and food, and there were, the muertos spread across the whole Zocalo. It was just beautiful energy. I loved seeing it. You can feel the spirits alive on the land. There were drumming circles and musics, and it was just so powerful to experience this. For me, I had walked into a church, the really famous church around the center of Mexico City, and it brought me back to my own experiences with Catholicism, my growing up Catholic, going to Catholic school, to see that they had altars of the popes in the church. To me was so special because it showed that you can combine spiritual practices. You can combine something like altars and venerating your ancestors or venerating the people who have passed before you, and all the things with being Catholic, right? I often felt that when I grew up Catholic, it was like, especially Catholic Haitians, it was like those who did voodoo and venerated their ancestors and that kind of thing. And then those who had the colonizer religion of Catholicism. And so there was never a combination of the two. And it really does feel like Mexico found a way to combine their own historic indigenous religions with the religion of Catholicism. I'm sure there were issues there. I'm sure there's a story behind there. I know that for a lot of folks, they had to combine them in order for the indigenous folks to embrace Catholicism. They had to combine them. So it was beautiful to see in a Catholic church that there were altars for Day of the Dead present. I thought that was beautiful, and it really helped me understand my own connection to spirituality, religion, Catholicism. That day, honestly, was one of the best days and the best way to enter into Mexico City, to really be there during their biggest celebration. I think that was just really, really powerful for me. And then right after that, I got super, super sick. I think the traveling and the being around tons of people for Day of the Dead, I just got really, really sick. So I spent my first 2 weeks just in bed. It was probably one of the worst colds, flus that I've had in years. So I was just out for the count for 2 weeks. So for the first couple of weeks that I was there, I really didn't experience the full energy of Mexico City. It really took until I like healed fully to start to feel the energy of Mexico City. And once I started to feel better, that's when I really was like, oh, I feel energized. I want to do this. I want to go there. I would take such long walks, sometimes 2-3 hour walks around, just exploring. Usually I do my everyday 30-minute walks, 45-minute walks is like my exercise or my daily activity. But in Mexico City, I would find myself just getting lost, right? Purposefully lost. And just walking around. The first place that I stayed in was like walking distance to Chapultepec Park, and that's a huge park. It's like triple the size of Times Square. It's triple the size of Central Park. And so being able to walk around that park, there's a zoo in there, there's like multiple ponds. It's just a beautiful, gorgeous park, and it was filled with nature. So I'd spend hours just walking around that park daily, getting my exercise in. Or the city in itself is so walkable. So just being able to walk around the neighborhoods that I was in, Condesa, Roma Norte, Roma Sur, and just really exploring Centra, Zocalo, and like the historic district and like all of these different places. It was absolutely the most beautiful energy for me to be in. And that's how I kept myself grounded, is by walking, is by connecting to nature, is by spending time in all the parks. I will add some videos of my first Airbnb, which was an Airbnb that was made for solo travelers, that were made for people, digital nomads and such. It was a really beautiful Airbnb. They gave you breakfast every morning. The breakfast was really simple, just like bread and fruit, but I think it was helpful, especially like the first day when I got there, when you have nothing. But eventually I got groceries and settled in, and it was really, really nice. They did weekly cleanings, and the staff there was super amazing, and I got to connect with other people who were living there or who were staying there, and it was really, really beautiful. And that first month, again, the first 2 weeks I was just recovering. So the second 2 weeks I really started to feel that energy. And that's when I recorded my first YouTube video that I posted about the experience of Oaxaca. I recorded it in that Airbnb with that energy, and it was like, I recorded it and then I went on a long walk, and it was just like, the energy was just flowing through me, where I felt so creative, and I created so many different videos and content because of the energy that I felt there. And my second Airbnb was in the Roma Sur neighborhood. This place was also really walkable. It was an Art Deco, beautiful hotel-like Airbnb experience. I feel like the staff at every place that I've been to in Mexico has been so kind, so amazing, so accommodating. Even if I don't know how to say anything, like everything in Spanish, because I'm practicing my Spanish, they've been so patient with me to ask for things, and that has been super, super helpful. And that Airbnb was a little bit more, it was a little bit nicer because that December was my birthday month, and so I wanted to stay somewhere that felt a little bit more upscale. That was like a treat for me, so I treated myself to this beautiful Airbnb, and I spent the month of December there. I also got to do some excursions during that month because I had some time off with the holidays. So I got to do the hot air balloon experience and touring the ruins. I think that that was the best excursion of my trip so far. The hot air balloons over the pyramids and the ruins it was to die for. That view was amazing. The experience was amazing. It was worth getting up at 4 a.m. It was worth the price. It was worth everything. I can't tell you how much it felt like it was divine alignment for me to be there. I knew that that was something that I wanted to experience and see. I struggled with the pyramids part because they explained that the pyramid steps, that they closed them off during COVID because they started to deteriorate from so many people visiting and walking on them. And that part of me felt like, this is the part of tourism that I don't love. Can we just witness the pyramids and the ruins without having to conquer them, walk on them, experience them? Because essentially there are people in there. There are souls in there. These are what they think is venerations for their ancestors. They were talking about how they're like perfectly positioned towards the sun and the moon. There's the pyramid of the moon and the pyramid of the sun. And so it feels weird being a tourist in an area that's supposed to be a spiritual site of some sort. So I tried my best to experience it without extracting from it, but it's always really difficult in places like that. But overall, just the hot air balloons by itself, I think would have been a good enough experience. I did not need to walk around the pyramids, but it was helpful to learn about them. I think that was the part that I most loved as well. We walked towards them. We got to learn about the history of them. And I think that was really important. But that experience of the hot air balloon, I will talk about it for years as being one of the best things I've done in a really long time. And then my third and final month, I stayed in Roma Norte in like an apartment building. It was a high rise. And that experience was also really beautiful. It felt a little bit more homey. So I still felt all the creative energy flowing through me, but I felt a little bit more grounded, like I was living there. Like that would be the experience if I lived there and I got an apartment there. There was a bigger kitchen. I got to like make my own food, and I just felt like I was finally starting to settle into the energy of Mexico City, though that was my last month there. So I feel like it went by the quickest, but I really did love all three of my Airbnb experiences while I was there. The one thing that they don't tell you about Mexico is how often you will experience earthquakes. While I was in Oaxaca, the first day I was there, I experienced an earthquake, which you saw in my last videos. But in Mexico City, I experienced 2 different earthquakes while I was there. And each time it doesn't get easier. Like it still shakes you. The second one that I experienced, or the first one that I experienced in Mexico City was in my second Airbnb, and it was at like 7 in the morning or something like that. So I woke up to the sound of my phone alerting, which I think was helpful because in Oaxaca there was no alert. I think because I had just gotten there, my phone wasn't tuned into the alert system, so I didn't get any warning. Whereas this one, I got woken up. And so like I'm rushing because I'm sleeping. So I'm in my pajamas. So I'm rushing to like put my shoes on and grab a coat and like walk out the door. And as I'm walking out the door, the building is shaking and swaying. And I was nauseous for the rest of the day because trying to put your shoes on while the building is shaking and walk out, all of that like completely threw off my whole equilibrium. And it took me a full day to recover from that earthquake. But I think it was helpful because I was on the first floor, and so I was able to like get out really quickly. But I learned more about earthquakes through that. Like if you're on the 4th floor or below, they advise you to find your way towards the exit and leave. But if you're 5th floor and above, they advise you to stay and just hunker down under, the door or somewhere that feels safe where you can't get harmed. And so it's things like that where I'm like, okay, now I know what I need to do. And now I know I have maybe 30 seconds to get out. I think when that alarm went off, I spent a good 10 to 15 seconds just being like, what is happening? So instead of just moving. And then the second time it happened in Mexico City, the third time overall, I was a lot more prepared. It happened at midnight. I was already asleep. It also woke me up. But that time I wasn't as freaked out. I just kind of grabbed my phone, put my shoes on, grabbed a sweatshirt and left. I didn't really feel anything that third time. And I don't know if it was because the building I was in or if it was because it wasn't as strong as the first 2. But I kind of just casually walked out and then went back home or went back inside and went to sleep. The other 2, I felt like I was shaken up after, where that third one, I was just kind of okay, this is the life. This is what it's like to live in Mexico City. Earthquakes are going to be a part of your norm. And I guess that's what folks on the West Coast feel who experience earthquakes often. I'm from the East Coast. We rarely experience earthquakes. I think I've only experienced 2 in my entire life prior to that. And now I've experienced more in Mexico than I have in my entire life, which is wild to think of. But overall, I think that Mexico City gave me exactly what it said it would give. If I did not believe in astrocartography before, but I did, this was the ultimate proof the ultimate proof. Oaxaca was supposed to be healing and a lot of shadow work and internal work and community centered, and that's what it felt like. According to the astrocartography, I would be community centered, I would be focused on ancestral healing, and I did that while I was there. And then in Mexico City is an energy of creativity and expansion and visibility, and I also felt that. And so it really is proof that there is something to this astrocartography, and I'm so glad I decided to take this journey and try these places that are supposed to be the best for me. While the energy of Mexico City was amazing, I don't know if it's something I can stay in long term, because it felt very much like how New York felt when I first started. In the beginning, it feels amazing to have all that creative energy and that vitality and that visibility desires running through you, but I can very much see myself becoming overwhelmed, overextended by that energy, because that's what happened to me in New York. In the beginning, I was, in grad school and I was working out every day, and then eventually I just felt burnt out by that type of strong energy. I don't know if it would be a place that I would want to stay in long term, but I do think that it's a place that I would want to go back to anytime that I needed that creative push, anytime I wanted to launch something. And that's what the astrocartography was basically like a launch me place. And so if there is ever a time where I want to launch something new, I think that Mexico City is the perfect energy to be in, to be able to push me into launching new creative ventures, new ideas, new businesses. But I will also post some vlogs about my time in Mexico so you can see what the experience was like for me through my videos, journal, diaries, all of those things. So I'll post those for you, and looking forward to telling you a little bit more about where I go to next. So tune in next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.